Okay, so let's keep cruising through. So now we've already learned about triads. We learned, a major triad is a major third followed by a minor third. A minor triad is the opposite. We start with a minor third, then we have a major third, okay? The fifth on the outside, they're usually called perfect fifths. Let's not worry about that too much, but we just know the fifth doesn't change very often, okay? But there are other types of chords besides those basic triads of the major third and the minor third, okay? The next common thing is to have a 7 chord. And a 7 chord doesn't mean there's 7 different notes. It means there's one more note, which is the 7th of the chord added. Because remember when we have a triad like C, E, G, the C is called the 1 or the root, the E is called the C, D, E, the 3rd, and the G is called the C, D, E, F, G, the 5th. So if we added one more note, every other letter, it would be a 7. C, D, E, F, G, A, B. 1, 3, 5, 7. Okay? So that's where the term 7 chords come from. There are lots of different 7 chords. There are a few very common ones, like major 7, minor 7, dominant 7. Those are the most common that you're going to use. Then you get like half diminished 7 or fully diminished 7, or sometimes it's called minor 7, flat 5, or diminished 7. Let's not worry about those too much. Let's concentrate on learning the two or three most common types, which are major 7, minor 7, and especially dominant 7. Okay? So let's play a little open C chord here. Now you know this is a C triad, so it's just got C, E, G in it, and then another C. Let's continue to think in C major. If we're in C major, what would that 7th note be? C, D, E, F, G, A, B. That would be the 7th, right? Because all the notes from our chords come from the notes in the scale. So if I stick a B onto a C chord, I get a type of chord called a major 7, okay? C major, pick up my C, I get a B. Now that's a C major 7, okay? Well, how is that built? You already understand how triads are built, so now we just have to understand that 7th on top, okay? So let's take a little detour to learn about the interval of a 7. Now, the thirds are kind of easy to figure out when you build up. Hey, was that, a minor third, 1.5 steps, or 3 frets on the guitar, or was that a major third, 2 whole steps, 4 frets on the guitar? It's kind of easy to picture 1.5 steps, 2 steps, but when you're going up to 7s, it's like, oh, is that 4.5, 5 steps, 5.5? It's hard to count steps that far up. Okay, so I kind of like to do the reverse and count down from an octave, and I'll show you what I mean. So here's a C, right? And here's another C. That's the octave. Now if I take this octave C and I drop it down 1/2 step or 1 fret, okay, I have a C and a B now. Okay, well this B, it is as far away from this root C as I can possibly be before I turn it back into the octave, okay? So that means it's a large interval, a large 7, okay? Because it's far away from the root and closer to the octave, okay? So C to B, we would call a major 7. Now if I went down another 1/2 step to say B flat, now I'm a whole step down from the octave, which means I'm closer to the root and further from the octave, which means it's smaller distance. There's less distance between C to B flat than it is from C to B. So C to B flat, I would say that interval is a minor 7, okay? So here's a good rule of thumb that you want to memorize. When you go down a 1/2 step from your octave, that's a major 7 interval. When you go down a whole step from your octave, that's a minor 7 interval, okay? Okay. So do whatever you need to do to memorize that, how those 7s work. So like, for example, D to D to C sharp, major 7, down a whole step to C, minor 7, wherever it is. C to C, C to C, B, that's a major 7, minor 7. Could even be with a different shape. like octaves are a different spread between, say, the second and the fourth string, or between the first and the third string. So however you do it, just memorize. Half step down from the octave gives you a major 7 interval. Whole step down gives you a minor 7 interval. Okay, so pause the video if you need to kind of just get that grasped. Okay, so now let's stick it back into our chords. So again, you can do this on your piece of paper. Get out that piece of paper where you copy down the PDF book where it's stacked the notes for the triads. Now add one more note. So instead of C, E, G, now it's C, E, G, B. Instead of D, F, A, now it's D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Instead of E, G, B, now it's E, G, B, D, and so on. Okay? Stack those notes. Do the work on the paper. Okay? Again, it's not necessarily reading music, but it's learning how music works. After you've taken a look at those, stacking those notes on there, make sure you can say, oh, okay, that 7 is a major 7 above the root. Oh, that 7 is a minor 7 above the root. Okay? And then we'll take a look at the formulas for the different common types of chords that we talked about. So once you've done all that, you go ahead and pause the video and write those notes in, figure out the interval. You already know the triad, and we'll put it together. Okay, so let's put it all together. We know, okay, a 1 chord is a major chord. If we add the B, that's a major 7 on top. So that makes a major 7 chord. So a major 7 chord is a major triad with a major 7 on top. Okay? Let's look at the next chord, like say D minor. The triad is minor. D to C, that's the 7. That's a minor 7 because it's a whole step down from D. Okay? When you have a minor triad with a minor 7 interval on top, that makes a minor 7 chord. Okay? E minor 7, same thing. Okay? The 3 chord. The 4 chord, F. F, A, C, E. Okay? Major triad with a major 7 on top. Major 7 chord. When we get to the G, we get a new type of chord, this really common chord, especially rock and blues, but just in music in general. So G, B, D, we already know that's a major triad. But when we stick the next note, G, B, D, E, F, the F on top, that's the 7, that's a minor 7 interval. F is a whole step down from G. So when we have a major triad with a minor 7, that makes a dominant 7 chord. This kind of rocky, bluesy kind of chord, but it's been around in classical music forever too. So that's a really common chord, dominant 7. When you see in a chord chart, like it just says something like G7, that's short for dominant 7. Okay? So that's the 3 most common types of 7 chords. Major 7s, major triad with a major 7 interval. Minor 7 chords, minor triad with a minor 7 interval. Dominant 7 chords, major triad with a minor 7. And if you map it out in your book, you'll see, oh, okay, the 1 and the 4 chords, in the key of C, that would be C and F, those are both major 7 chords. Only the 5 chord, in this case the G, is a dominant 7 chord, and the 2, 3, and 6 chords are minor 7s. Okay? The 7 chord, again, is the unusual one, and we don't have to worry about it so much right now. But it's a diminished triad, we know, with a minor 7 on top. Okay? In jazz music, they would say, oh, that's a minor 7 flat 5. And that's true, because if it was a minor 7, it would have a minor triad with a minor 7. And we're just lowering the 5th to make it a diminished chord. Don't worry about it too much. I know that one's confusing. Classical people will call it a half diminished 7. Jazz people will call it, or rock will call it a minor 7 flat 5. But don't sweat that one so much. Okay? So that's the theory. You took your triads that you built, you slapped some 7s on top, you understand how to find if it's a major 7 or a minor 7 interval, and then now memorize the theory like, oh, okay, major triad, major 7 equals major 7 chord. Minor triad, minor 7 equals minor 7 chord. Major triad, minor 7 interval equals dominant 7 chord. Those are the 3 you absolutely have to memorize, okay, to understand, music. All right, so cruising through on your page 9 of your PDF document where we cover all this. I also give the hey, how do people spell these things on a page like MAJ7 or Triangle 7? little min7 or -7 for minor 7. Dominant 7, they can say DOM7 or just 7, like I said earlier. That means dominant 7. Okay? If they want a major 7 or a minor 7, they have to tell you that. If it just says 7, like A7, that means dominant 7. That's just a little nomenclature. Okay, so moving on. So let's do the same kind of thing that we did before, where we used our bar chords, but now we're going to cover some shapes that, maybe you know them already and maybe you don't, but they're really crucial to know, which is our 7 chords. Some people call these jazz chords. I don't really like that nomenclature because all styles of music use 7 chords, right? Blues and classical and reggae and everything, everybody uses these 7 chords. So let's start with the 5th string shapes. And they're all mapped out for you in your PDF book. But we're going to start with a 5th string major 7 shape, which is, if you don't already know it, you have a bar, and you have your 3rd finger, 2nd finger, pinky, and then the bar plays again. It's actually easier, in my opinion, than a major triad to get all 5 of those strings. A lot of times people play their major triads like this, or like this, and they only really play 4 strings. It's hard to bow your finger and get the top string clean. So these major 7 shapes, actually it's pretty easy. To get all, it's an easy shape once you have it memorized. Okay, you might already know this shape, but make sure you can do this work. Root 5th, major 7, major 3rd, 5th again. Make sure you can say the numbers. Make sure you can say the letters. This is a C, G, B, E, G. Okay? Root 5th, 7, 3rd, 5th. So if you haven't already memorized your major 7, 5th string shape, pause the video and check it out. Okay, moving on. Let's move up to a D here and we'll look into our minor 7 shape. So it's just like and again, the major triad, we took that major shape and we took the octave and dropped it down a half step. We have to flip our fingers around to do it. That's where it came from. Root 5th octave, root 5th, major 7. Now our minor 7 chord, same thing. We take this minor chord shape, right? Root 5th, octave, 3rd, 5th, and we're just dropping the octave down into a 7. When we pick our pinky up, the bar is a whole step below the octave, so that's that minor 7. Minor chord with a minor 7 on top. This is a really great shape. And you can mess around with hammer-ons and all that, but we just want to really right now mostly concentrate on, hey, let's get the shape memorized if we haven't already. And this is the step you probably haven't done already. Can you say root 5th, minor 7, minor 3rd, 5th? And that's D, A, C, F, A. Right? Moving up, E chord, E minor 7. Same thing. Root 5th, 7th, 3rd, 5th, and in this case it would be your E, B, D, G, B. Next chord, F major 7, 4 chords are major 7. So back to our major 7 shape, okay, which is your F, C, E, A, C. That's your root 5th, major 7, major 3rd, 5th. Okay, and then up to the G dominant 7. Which is your G, D, F, B, D, which is your root, your 5th, your 7, your 3rd, and your 5th. A minor 7, a little bit easier than A minor to play up here, but you can also just kind of see, oh, okay, there's the bar. That's where this A minor 7 open chord shape comes from, right? G, C, E. So if you want to play that one as this chord versus this, no problem. Okay, so make sure you cruise through slowly through your chords. You memorize the shapes, you can say the numbers and the letters of your chords, and then you can kind of goof around. Maybe you'll come up with a cool order of chords. It's fun for you. But really it's just about, hey, making sure you can play your C major bar chords up and down on the 5th string roots. Okay, so now after you've paused the video, and it might take a while to get those shapes down, it might take a while to get comfortable goofing around with the chords. Let's take a look at our 6-string major 7, minor 7, and dominant 7 shapes. Okay. All right, so for our 6th string, I'm going to give you these full bar chord shapes. There's lots of alternatives, like, for example, this is a C major 7, but maybe this version is more commonly played, right? This is a, minor 7, but maybe this version is more commonly played, but I'm just going to give you like the full 6-string shapes, even though I don't use them as much. You still want to know them, okay? So let's start. If we had, say, a C here on the 8th fret, root, 5th, octave, 3rd, 5th, octave. Well, that octave, that's the one we have to drop a half step to get a major 7. So then you have this full bar chord version of a major 7. Root, pinky, you can play your 2nd, 3rd, bar, bar. And that would be C, G, B, E, G, C. There's lots of other ways to play these chords. But we'll just concentrate on this basic bar chord one for now. Okay. Now, diminished 7 chords, like I said, maybe we'll skip over it for now. I do map it out for you, I think. A variety of ways to play it. But I don't want to get into the diminished chords so much. Okay, so moving on, let's check out our minor 7s. So like, for example, here's A minor, triad. To make a minor 7 bar chord, you just can pick up your pinky. Okay, because that drops the octave, a whole step, A to G, and that gives us a minor triad with a minor 7. There's other ways to do it, but we're just going to do this basic one. Okay? And then let's look at the G chord. Oh, and make sure, of course, when you play these chords, you same thing. Root, 5th, minor 7, 3rd, 5th, octave. In this case, A, B, G, C, E, A. Now let's go down for the G for the dominant 7. Here's G major bar chord. We pick up the pinky, and we got a minor 7 added to our triad. So we've got G, D, F, and then B, D, G. Okay? All right, so now we've got, and make sure you pause, memorize those shapes if you haven't already. Now you've got a major 7, minor 7, E minor 7, or down here, same thing as this. Hard to play it up here for me on the 12th fret. You have your F major 7, awkward sounding shape, sounds better, these thinner sounds, but just for now, I'm just going to memorize this. It's kind of low to play such a thick chord, so it might sound awkward, that's why. Dominant 7, minor 7, we'll skip the diminished 7s for now, and then back to our major 7s. So, a lot of jazz guys will play different versions where they skip the 5th string. So instead of playing like a G7 like this, they'll play it like this. Instead of playing an F major 7 like this, so thick, they'll thin it out. Okay? We'll get into those versions later. They are really useful, but for right now, let's just see if you can map out Okay, so a little extra credit for the video. I'm going to show you how most jazz guys would play these 7 chords when you're talking about 6-string roots. The 5th string roots, sometimes they skip the 4th string, but it's super common to still just play the shapes that we've already covered for the fifth string, because they're higher on the guitar register just by being up on the higher string. It doesn't sound so muddy when you have these full shapes. When you're on the sixth string, like, it's not wrong, but that's a real thick, almost muddy sound to play that major seven so low, like this F major seven. So a lot of times guitar players want a thinner sound. So what they'll do is they'll play a version of these chords where they skip a couple strings. In particular, for the sixth string roots, they skip the fifth string and the first. So let's take a look at some of these shapes. So for example, a major seven shape, you'd have like a root, skip a string, third, fourth, and second. And you kind of mute the fifth and this first strings with your fingers. A little hard to do. But it thins the sound out, especially for like a lower chord, like this F major seven. That's your C and your F for that major seven. The dominant seven doesn't sound so bad with the bar chord as some of the other shapes, but I'll show you the way that these guys do. Often a lot of guitar players will play a dominant seven shape is still skipping the fifth and the first string. You go one, you skip a string, two, pinky, three. So again, that's your root, your seven, your third, and your fifth, your G, F, and D. That's like an alternate way to play a dominant seven. An alternate way to play a minor seven is to skip the fifth string. The first string you can play or not, but you just do a bar and you reach over with your two and you mute the fifth. So you have like A, G, C, E, A if you want it. Okay. The diminished sevens, you can play different ways. Okay, so I'll give you the diminished seven. It's actually kind of like, you know, like I said, this is like a kind of a full bar version of it. It's a little awkward. So if we think like minor seven, the shape I just showed you, and we know, hey, there's the fifth, then lowering the fifth, that's the difference between a minor seven and a minor seven flat five or half diminished seven. You kind of have to, get like a almost like an A minor type shape and reach your two over. So if you want to work on that one, you can. You know, you got your root, seventh, third, diminished fifth. In this case it would be B, A, D, F. If you want to skip that chord, I'm okay with that too. But these are nice. Nice alternate versions of six string, seven chord shapes. So you might want to play around mapping those out on the neck. Map out your, you can map out the basic versions like I showed you already, then you can go back and map out these more commonly used versions. And then just goof around, learn where the C major chords are on the sixth string. Okay, we already learned the fifth string up and down, now you learn the sixth string up and down. Okay, so we've done a lot of work already. This isn't a quick and easy process. It's going to take a while to learn the theory, take a while to apply it to the guitar. So you're doing awesome, so keep up the hard work, and I'll see you in the next section for your theory.